Hi guys and gals, today we're gonna talk about the back row with the barbell. I already have multiple videos about the back rows with the, dumbbell, the medals row variation and a lot of other variations on the hyperextension machine and etc. I'm gonna put the link of those videos up in this video, so if you're watching from my YouTube channel, you're gonna learn more. But anyway, this video I'm gonna just gather all those reasons and tell you why doing this exercise with the barbell is not the best option. So it's better for you to watch those videos as well to get the other variations, so you have choices. But in this video I'm just trying to convince you why this exercise is not good being done with the barbell. First of all, I have multiple videos about chest press, the shoulder press and other exercises, and I tell you in those videos that barbell is not good to be used with majority of exercises that involve your shoulder, because you do not have the freedom to move your elbow or your wrist, and that can cause a lot of problems. And aside from that, when you're using the barbell, you're not gonna notice if there are any differences in one side compared to the other. And also you need a lot more core stability and engagement of your entire body, especially if you're doing it standing up, or in this case a lot of flexibility and strength of the lower back. And it's not just worth it if those muscles are weaker or not that flexible, or you are injured in any reason, or if you have any imbalances in your strength and all those things. It's just not going to be the best option. So these are the first things in general about the barbell. Now let's go to the details of the barbell row itself. First of all, let's put the bar aside. First, just talk about the rows without any weight and see what requirements we need. So, as I have talked about it in those videos, if you want to target the back, you need to calm down. Now, the angle of your body is going to determine which muscles you use. So, the more upright you are, the more shoulder you're going to use, the more traps you're going to use, and the more you bring yourself lower, the more you're going to use the infraspinatus, the rhomboid, and also the traps are going to be involved, but the lower fibers are going to be involved more. And if you bring yourself too much down, now, just for, it's not a good idea to bring yourself too much down, but just for the sake of the educational purposes, if you bring yourself too much down, you're gonna involve even your lats as well. So the angle matters, but you've gotta do the angle based on your flexibility. So if you have tightness in your hamstring, it's really hard for you to calm down. And if you have tightness here, you're just gonna go into a posterior tilt, and as I have talked about it, it's going to be bad for your lower back, and it can cause even disc issues like herniation and bulging problems. So the hamstring needs to be stretched. I talked about it in the other videos that if you've got that problem, go wide, point the toes out, the hamstring is going to be more flexible and you can come lower. But if you've got tightness in your adductors, this is gonna be hard. So if the inside of your leg is really tight, this position is gonna be hard, so you need to come in. So this is gonna be easy on the inside of your thigh, but the more you bring the feet together, the harder it's gonna be for the hamstring. So if you've got both of these problems, you're not gonna be that much flexible to calm down, and you're gonna be angled too much up. If you want to get away with it, you're gonna use a hyperextension machine. Now when you use the hyperextension machine, the torso compared to your legs are not gonna be 90 degree anymore. So it's gonna be a little bit more, and it's gonna be easier on the hamstring. It's gonna require less flexibility from the adductors, and also the lower back is gonna be freer. And if you have these issues, it's gonna be a little bit comfortable with that. And also the work on the lower back is gonna be more. So because it's not too much stretched, you're gonna use the muscles in that area as well, which is good. So I'm not saying that stretching the lower back too much or being too flexible is good. No, it's actually the opposite. If the lower back is really stretched and flexible, it's not gonna be strong enough for you to hold yourself like this while you're holding a weight in your arms as well. So it needs to be balanced, so not too much flexible, not too much strong, so it's so tight. So anyway, also the glutes need to be flexible as well, but majority of people do not have any problem with that because we sit majority of the time, most of us, and we don't have that much problem in this area. Also, you need to be a little bit flexible in the calf as well, because it's really hard to keep the leg straight and calm down. So it's better to bend the knee slightly and calm down, and you might feel a little bit of tension in your calf as well. So far we talked from the toes all the way to your chest. All those issues and requirements are gonna be required twice when you're using a barbell compared to a dumbbell or a cable, because the weight is gonna be twice. So if you want to challenge the muscles on the back equally, so both sides at the same time, you need to handle twice the weight that, for example, you use while doing the dumbbell. So it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. When you're using a barbell, you mainly have two variations, whether you supinate your hand or pronate. Now, although you can go out or go in, but that's also not a good option to play with a lot, so you don't have that much freedom. Because, for example, if you pronate and come in a lot, the wrist is gonna be bent because this is straight and you cannot hold it like this, so the wrist is gonna be under a lot of pressure, and also the shoulder positioning is gonna be a little bit forced because the elbow direction is predetermined, again because this is a bar. Also, when you go too much out, it's just gonna be less range of motion compared to, for example, a dumbbell that you can bring in, play with, and again, it's forced, the wrist is gonna be under pressure, and the same goes with the supination as well. So, for example, when you're supinated, if you go too much out, for example, like this, it's just gonna be uncomfortable on the shoulder, and the wrist is gonna be under pressure as well, and too much bringing it in, again, is gonna be uncomfortable for the wrist and the shoulder. So you've gotta find where it's comfortable for you. So everybody is different, but majority of people need to just be a little bit inner or outer than shoulder width. So you cannot go too much out, not too much in. You don't have that freedom with the barbell, but I've talked about it, about the other variations, that how you can play with them and move the elbow a lot freer. Anyway, when you're pronated and you do this exercise, let me first show it. So this is pronated variation. As you can see, for me it's a little bit wider than shoulder width. When I do the exercise, from the side. Now, although this might seem good, first of all, I do not have a good stretch and contraction. So, unlike a dumbbell that I could rotate and bring it down and too much up, so I had that rotation of the torso as well. I do not have that option here. Although I've got to say that too much rotation is also bad for the back, but still a little bit of rotation is good. I do not have that because I have two hands on the bar, and aside from that, the elbow is coming up too much. So when I do this exercise, the elbow is coming up, and that can put pressure on my shoulder. So too much abduction of the shoulder is not a good option, but when you're using a dumbbell, you're not gonna be that much force to keep the elbow up, because you can play with your hands. So you're not gonna be fully pronated, you're gonna be a little bit in between. And again, when you go supinated, this time you need to be slightly closer to shoulder. So it's not a good idea to go out like the pronated variation. Come in and first from the side. And front and back. The problem with this is the wrist issue. So the more I come up, the wrist is gonna be a lot abducted, and if I bring the hands out and do the exercise, it's just gonna be a little bit external rotation, unwanted external rotation on the shoulder, which is gonna limit the range of motion. So I either am hurting my wrist or my range of motion is not optimal. And aside from that, too much supination can hurt the bicep if the weight is a little bit heavy. So I have that restriction. And also the problem is that I'm using different muscles as well. So when I supinate and do the exercise, it's not gonna be the same muscles as I pronate. But when you're using a dumbbell, you can use both of those muscle groups because you're not gonna be supinated or pronated. You can be neutral, you can be a little bit towards supination, you can be a little bit towards pronation, and you're gonna play with the elbow positioning as well. So again, in the video that I have about the Meadows row, I talk about the variations, and I say that even if you do not have the flexibility in your wrist, you can have the flexibility of moving your torso around the bar, but that's because you're using one arm at a time. Again, as mentioned, these problems are not just for the back rows, it's for a lot of other exercises. Even for example, if you do something simple as a bicep curl, which pretty much seems safe to do with the barbell, aside from, again, not noticing the imbalances, you are forcing your wrist to too much supination, and it requires a lot of flexibility, which is gonna change during the exercise. So as you come up, the wrist is gonna be forced into supination. So you do not have the freedom to keep it a little bit neutral, like a dumbbell. You need to force it to full supination, and it's really hard. Also, you do not have the freedom to come in or go out because of wrist issues.